Bless you, and thank you so very much for joining us this morning. My name is Apostle Lance Bellamy, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to Kingdom Voice broadcast. As we share with you truths of the kingdom from an apostolic perspective, and today being no exception, it is my pleasure to have you here with us because it makes this broadcast what it is. And it certainly allows us to journey together and to be a part of the journey of our kingdom faith. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us this morning. And just gives us a chance to connect and engage. I want to take this opportunity also to ask you, to encourage you to share your thoughts and your comments, and feel free to jot your comments down in the, I guess, in the comment section, and I will see them live right here in the studio, and we'll be able to respond to those. And the reason I ask that is because it makes the broadcast a lot more engaging, and it allows me to hear your thoughts, even if it's a comment or a question. It just allows me to hear where you are and what you think about the things that are being presented here on the set of Kingdom Voice. So thank you so very much, and again, feel free to comment as at your leisure, and just know that it would be truly appreciated, and I will respond to it as the broadcast moves forward. I also want to take this opportunity to invite you to connect with us. You can see on your screen, you can connect with us via email or regular mail. You can visit our website at rotruth.org. Our podcast is on Kingdom Talk, and I certainly encourage all of you to connect with us there, and to um, just join the conversation concerning our kingdom journey. And lastly, for those of you that would like to make a contribution, you can do so at Cash App or at PayPal. And either way would be appreciated as we endeavor to continue to grow the ministry and grow the broadcast here at Kingdom Voice. Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so very much. And again, it means a lot to us to engage with you. So please feel free to share your thoughts and your comments. Um, okay, I want to, well, first of all, good morning, Angie and Gary and Eric and Moesha. Thank you all for checking in and letting us know that you're here. And anyone else, please just note that you're here. Just say hello to us on your devices, and we'll certainly be appreciative of that. Okay, so today, I wanted to and want to engage a basic conversation. Last week we talked about is Jesus is Lord, or is he? And I really challenged us to think about a lot of the things that are being said and are said to us, things that we have just taken for granted. And I would venture to say, because I was a part of this as well, that when people said something to me about the church during my formative years as a young believer, I embraced a lot of those things without really doing any type of deep dive or research or investigation into the facts behind those things. And in large part, it was done so for a couple of reasons. One, we vested a lot of trust in the people that were saying these things to us because they were where we wanted to be and had been there a lot longer than us, right? So we just assumed and took for granted that the things that they said that were in fact the case. The reality of it is that the majority of the things that they said, they got from somebody else that they trusted, who got it from someone that they trusted, and no one rarely taking the time to stop and say, okay, wait a minute, let me see where this came from. Is it in fact the case? And that seems to be the pattern that takes place within Christianity. And so we began to develop a sense of identity around things that are really not founded and grounded in kingdom truth. So that's number one. Number two, we believed that if they are saying it to us, they are righteous and holy people. So they must be saying the things that are true. So we vested a lot of interest in them on the basis of our perception of who they were rather than, well, let me just say it that way. It was on the perception of who they were. We perceived them to be holy, righteous, sanctified people. And so surely they would not mislead me. And I would say that no, they probably didn't intentionally mislead you, but mislead you nonetheless, because the information, a lot of that information that was shared was just simply not rooted and grounded in kingdom truth and fact. And that's a big chunk of the challenge that we have in Christianity, because here's what ultimately takes place. So you are told something, it becomes rooted and grounded in you. And so now you embrace that as unchallengeable truth. And so when you are challenged by, or when that truth in you is challenged, you go into a defensive posture. And so now you begin to defend that thing that you believe, and so there is no room for questioning, and there is no room for allowing that thing that you believe to be challenged. And so you go to the death, or you fall on your sword behind believing that thing. Well, the reality of it is that that thing is not what you think it to be. In many instances, it's what you want it to be, but it's not what it is. It is not what it actually is. And so therein lies the challenge when we are challenged to go into new territories, into new things, because most of us have been made to believe things that are not so. So today, let me back up for just a second and say this. The topic last week was Jesus is Lord, or is he? Challenged the idea that most Christians adhere to, and that is Jesus is Lord, that's it, that's all, no questions asked, move forward, right? Well, the reality has truly begun to surface in this kingdom era that Jesus is not Lord, okay? Certainly not of the kingdom, which is what all believers aspire to be. The problem comes in that their understanding of the kingdom has come from a perspective and a place that is just simply not the foundation that was established by Yeshua. And so now they're on a track that has been established by those who fostered the Jesus Christian ideology, and not the Yeshua kingdom ideology, which is what Yeshua established and began to deliver. I want to challenge you with something real quick. I want to challenge you to go do some investigation, okay? And that is, I want you to investigate. I want you to look. I want you to scour the internet, because it's obviously, the information is at your fingertips. You just have to go get it in many instances. But I want you to go investigate the message of Jesus. Okay, the message not Jesus, the message that Yeshua delivered. Okay, or the message that he advocated, the message of Yeshua. Okay, or you can, I will even concede to say the message of Jesus, even. Okay, because that's what you're going to find when you start looking into this. Okay, look into the message of Jesus as opposed to the message about Jesus. And in many instances, you're going to find the religion of Jesus versus the religion about Jesus. And the reason I'm challenging you to go do this is because what you're going to find is that a lot of the message that Yeshua / Jesus taught and advocated fell victim to the message that emerged that was focused on the character or the personage of Jesus. Let me back up so that I can be very clear. Yeshua declared a message of the kingdom. The message of Christianity became the message about Jesus, or again, about Yeshua. Christianity became the message about the person, whereas what Yeshua delivered was the message about the kingdom. Those are two different things, definably different, and with a uniquely different focus. Most Christians are caught up in the message about Jesus and have completely lost the emphasis and the message of the kingdom. Now, your challenge, and what I'm challenging you to do, is to begin to engage into the kingdom identity, which is uniquely different from what you know the Christian identity to be. And as such, you have to go get that from Elohim yourself. No one can deliver that message to you but Elohim. This is why Yeshua advocated so intimately, so passionately about becoming one with the Father. That's the challenge that many of us are faced with. Okay, so I just wanted to for a few minutes really kind of bring the last week's message to a complete closure and give you a challenge to go do something that I think is going to be beneficial to your journey and your kingdom walk. Again, this broadcast is not about me telling you what to do and how to and this, that, and the other. It's about encouraging you to engage this journey of your kingdom identity and your kingdom journey from a place of intimate engagement so that you become responsible for your journey and you become responsible for the identity that Elohim establishes in you. Okay, having said that, today I want to talk about entering into new territory. This is so important. This is so vital to your kingdom identity because the very idea of the kingdom journey that you're on requires you to regularly cross thresholds, cross boundaries, enter into new territories. It is a normative experience in your kingdom journey. And if you are averse to moving into new territories, your journey will be difficult. It will be stagnant. It will be fraught with Father having to coerce you into this new place. Whereas if you embrace this new territory and the mindset that comes with going into new territories, you will become more and more and more comfortable with the change that is inevitably a part of our journey. It is a regular part of our journey, the change, moving into something new, believing something different, and challenging into territories that you haven't been before. Whereas if you are not willing to do that, then you're going to find yourself stagnated and stagnant in your kingdom journey. And that clearly, beloved, is not a part of Father's engagement with us, Elohim's engagement with us. So I want to start by reading something that many Christians and many kingdom believers embrace and believe, right? In the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, and it says in verse 19, and I'm reading from the KJV right here. It says, "Behold, I do mark this, new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you know it?" Now, that's Isaiah is challenging the reader that Elohim, or in this particular case, Yahweh, is going to do a new thing. And he says, "Shall you know it? I will even make," watch this, "a way in the wilderness and a river in the desert." Now, I want you to understand the significance of a way in the wilderness and a river in the desert. There is no way in the wilderness. There is no river in the desert. People understood that. People understood the magnitude of what Isaiah was saying when he proposed that God is Elohim, Yahweh is going to do a new thing. He's going to put a way in the wilderness. Well, wait a minute. That takes a miraculous thing. Or a river in the desert. Well, that takes a miraculous thing. But it's going to be something different, new, never been done before. So Christians now read that and they say, "Oh, God is going to do a new thing, a new thing, a new thing." Well, in the mind of most Christians, and I'd even dare say many kingdom believers, God is going to do a new thing is just a variation on something that has already been done. That's the new thing in their thinking. It's just a variation. It's not going to be a totally new thing. It's just going to be a variation on something that has already been done. Well, unfortunately, this kingdom era is not about a variation. It is bringing about a radically different change from the things that you have become accustomed to. One of the things that I just mentioned, Jesus being Lord, or is he, is one of those challenges. That's a new territory for most of us. Because most of us equate Jesus and Yeshua, kingdom and church, religion and ecclesia, all of that's all just one big homogeneous or semantic experience. Well, it isn't. It isn't. The kingdom is different. Yeshua is different than Jesus. The ecclesia is different than the church. These things are definably different, and many of us are being challenged to make that distinction. And as Moses said, "Let him that is on the Lord's side, let him come over unto me." Okay. Like Joshua said, "Choose ye this day. How long shall you be halt between two opinions? Choose ye this day. If God be God, serve him. But if Baal be God, then serve him." Right? You've got to choose. You've got to make a decision. You cannot be kingdom and Christianity. You cannot be Jesus / Yeshua, all of that stuff. You've got to be willing to move into territory that you've never been before, that you've never tread before. Okay. You're going to be asked to be something of this generation. First of all, is being asked to be a trailblazing generation. Talk about a way in the wilderness. We're being asked to blaze that trail in the wilderness, to cut that new path in the wilderness. Okay. This is that time in the season in which we're going to be asked to go into new territories. So how do we enter into those new territories? One of the things that I've often encouraged people to do, and I do myself, is because I am constantly crossing over. And my good friend Apostle Vince reminds me of the very definition of the word Hebrew. Comes from the understanding of one who crosses over, one who constantly crosses over into new territories. The term crossing over meant that they were going out of one place across basically the river and then into a new territory that they had never been. and the term Hebrew was applied to them from outside onlookers. So the term itself means one who crosses over, and we know that Yeshua was a Hebrew. Okay, we know that. Now, he was a Jew in the terms of his lineage. He came out of the tribe of Judah, but all of the tribes were Hebrews, and Hebrews were those who crossed over, from which we as kingdom citizens have a lot of our historical identity and historical understanding of the way Yahweh dealt with us from the Hebrew perspective. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to go become a Hebrew, but I'm just giving you an understanding of where Yahweh started dealing with us in terms of us now being kingdom heirs. It came out of his dealing with the Hebrews. So Hebrews is the term itself is one who crosses over. And as such, we are being asked to continually cross into new territories, to cross into new places. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is to begin a simple request of Elohim, and that is this: renew my mind to allow me to embrace my new season. Okay, now I'm not talking just about your seasons in your own personal lives, although that is as pertinent a crossing over as crossing over into a kingdom from a kingdom perspective as well, because you're crossing over from not having a job into a new position. That's a new territory for you, all right? Or out of one city into another because your life required you to move out of your current dwelling into another place, or out of a existing relationship into a new relationship with someone else. Okay, it could be an intimate relationship, a personal relation, a passion relationship. It could be, let me say it this way, a romantic relationship. You're going out of where you were in an old relationship into a new relationship with a new person. You've got to allow Elohim to renew your mind in all of those instances, right? Because that allows me to see the new place for what it is, not what I think it is or what I want it to be. You need to see these places for what they are, because in some places, your new territory may require battle armor, right? In other instances, it may require an olive branch. In other instances, it may require something totally different, right? And Elohim can allow me and can nurture me into my new mind that's required to be successful in that new place. This is why it's imperative that when we're crossing over into new territory, we need to be prepared for that place that we're entering into. And that's where a new mind, that's where Elohim can always have me ready and always have me positioned so that I can make full access and take full advantage of the place that I'm in to be successful. Okay? So when we're crossing over into new territories, we've got to allow ourselves to be renewed so that we can effectively engage in that new place. Otherwise, what you will find yourself doing is trying to engage in a new season with an old mind. I'm a former athlete. Eric is listening in on the program today, and he and I played college football together. And so as former athletes, we know that when it's time for one season to end, i.e. football season, there's another season beginning right behind it, i.e. basketball season, right? And so I cannot leave football season with the same mind and enter into basketball season with that mind. I can't, because in football season, it required armor, a helmet, shoulder pads, hip pads, thigh pads, knee pads, cleats, right? And so I did different things with that uniform because of the nature of that season. Well, entering into basketball season, I don't need the helmet. I don't need the shoulder pads. I don't need the thigh pads and the hip pads and the cleats. I need a pair of basketball shoes. I need a basketball, right? And so I have to engage the new season from a new perspective of the nature of competition, because that's what we're doing, right? In football, we're competing, and in basketball, we're competing. But the nature of the competition is completely different. As someone said to me once, that football is a collision sport, right? Basketball is a contact sport. And so likewise, in the kingdom, when I am in one season of my life, it requires a certain paradigm, a certain mindset, a focus, a certain approach. And in some instances, that approach may be more aggressive. It may be more direct. It may be more forthright, right? And as I leave out of that season and enter into a new season, I need to understand what is the nature of that season. And Elohim is there to position me, to renew me, to shift my mind. So I've got to be willing to make a paradigm shift when I enter into new territories. I have to be willing to make a paradigm shift when those new territories arrive. And when I am, or should I say, when I arrive at that new territory, okay? And doing so will allow me to be most effective in that place. So let's talk a little bit about what we're being asked for you to do coming out of Christianity and into the kingdom. Out of Christianity and into the kingdom. We've talked about this, so this will be more of a refresher for some of you and for others, it will be probably brand new. But coming out of the Christianity and into the kingdom, you've got a certain mindset in Christianity, filled with rules, filled with regulations, filled with traditions, filled with rituals. All of these things are part of your Christian identity, right? So you go to church on Sunday, you fellowship on Wednesday, you have to be at a church attendance, you got to give your tithes, you've got to do all of these things that are a part of your Christian identity, right? And so now when I move over into my kingdom identity, the temptation will be to carry all of that over here. I got to read my Bible. I got to quote scripture. I got to know the Bible. I've got to know all of these things. So that's the temptation coming over into the kingdom. That I've got to bring all of that over into the kingdom. And many of you do, or at least you try to do it. You bring all of those rituals and practices and traditions and all of those things come over with you into your new season. And guess what you're doing? You're destroying, you're disrupting, you're hindering your kingdom advancement, your kingdom growth, your kingdom identity, trying to force what you were in Christianity over into what you are as a kingdom son. Remember what I said to you earlier. There is only one place for you to gain your kingdom identity, and that is through a relationship, intimacy with Elohim. Okay? So you've got to allow Elohim to renew your mind now to begin to embrace your kingdom identity. Renew your mind to begin to understand that my relationship, my walk of faith is based on my intimacy with Elohim, not on my participation in church activities. And most of you know that I'm telling the truth and I'm sharing with you facts that you have experienced in your own life. Your church identity is wrapped up in your church participation. You know that because that's where all of us were. That's not a slight on anybody. That's just an acknowledgement of the facts. That's where we were. We were all wrapped up in participation in church, reading our scriptures, attending certain activities, going to conferences, and oh, now I got it because I heard Bishop so-and-so or Apostle so-and-so say it, and now I believed it. And so that makes it a part of who I am. If you're believing it because they said it, then that has no value in the kingdom. They may have said it, and I'm not suggesting that we can't believe things that people have said, but I am saying I believe it not because they said it, but because Elohim quickened it in me. Those are two different things. I'm not believing it because Bishop Real Popular said it, or Apostle, Big Will said it. I'm believing it because Elohim quickened it. They may have said it, but it was Elohim quickening it in me. And those are two different things, beloved. Those are significantly different from each other. And so now in the kingdom, I am moving because I heard I heard Elohim say something to me. I believed what I heard, and now I'm acting on what I believe. I'm going to say that again. My kingdom identity and my kingdom journey and my walk of faith in the kingdom is based upon me having heard something that Elohim said to me. I believed what I heard. Okay. And now I am acting on what I heard. Excuse me, I'm acting on what I believe. And that is the kingdom, the core of your kingdom journey, your walk of faith. And I'm going to say something here, and I don't mean this in any way disrespectful or anything, but most of us are not walking by faith. We really aren't. What we're walking by is that we're walking by things that we've heard. We're walking by things that are popular in our circles of Christianity. And that's a challenge. That was a challenge for me. And I readily admit that and acknowledge that was a challenge for me because, I certainly believe that I was walking by faith. And the only reason that I understand that the difference between where I was then and where I am now is because Elohim really admonished me concerning those things. And that's why I'm admonishing and encouraging you, rather, to begin to really engage with Elohim so that they can allow you to really begin to develop and form that intimacy with them. I want to go back a little bit and just again talk about the renewing of our minds, and because that is so key into entering into new territories. And again, each season that we enter into brings about a necessity to have the right mind in that season. The wrong mind will literally destroy your season. Okay, it will destroy it. I'll never forget when Elohim really began to drive this point home to me. It was about 20 years ago, and even then, just to say, just again in full transparency here, 20 years ago, I was steeped in the church. But even then, as I look back now, I know Elohim was drawing me out. Okay. And one of the first things as a pastor that Elohim gave me to preach as a message was renew your mind to embrace your new season. At the time I preached that message, I thought that was for the congregation. Little did I know it was actually for me. I shared it with the congregation, but it was for me. Because what Elohim was getting ready to do in me was to take me out of Christianity and bring me into the kingdom. I didn't understand that. I completely did not understand what Elohim was doing. Okay. They were taking me out of the church and bringing me into the kingdom. And this was the beginning of that nurturing move to do so 20 years ago. And as a result of that, as a result of them doing that, my mind began to open up. I began to question. I began to ask questions of Elohim that I never asked before. I began to challenge what I believed, what Christianity had taught me. I wasn't ready to abandon it as I have done today. but I was definitely challenging it. One of the first things that I began to ask is, if I'm free from sin, why do I have to keep repenting of sin? That was one of the first questions. Okay. If I am a son of God, then what's the difference between me and, at the time, Jesus? Right? I began to ask some probing, for me anyway, um, um, probing questions, and I wanted to know answers. And true to form, Elohim began to nurture me right down those paths and answer those questions for me. Okay. That was taking me further along in my kingdom journey, or further along out of Christianity and beginning into my kingdom journey, right? This is a part of the process that I really want to encourage you that are listening to me to engage in. You've got to begin to ask the questions that have been nagging in the back of your mind, questions that have been unanswered. You've kind of tucked those questions away. You've taken those questions, and because people say you just got to trust God. Some things you're not going to learn until you get to heaven, and all of that kind of stuff. The answers that they've given us when we had those questions that they didn't have answers to. Some things you just got to trust God, and you just got to wait until you get to heaven. Some things we're not going to know until we get to heaven, and some things God just don't want you to know. Oh, wait a minute. I thought he said, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Come now, let us reason together. Okay. Well, they didn't have the answers, and they weren't in a position to tell you to go to God to get the answers. So they came up with these answers that really made no sense, and still to this day makes no sense. Okay. So entering into new territories is going to challenge you. It is going to challenge you to begin to expand and to allow more of an understanding of Elohim to enter in. One of the things that Elohim really began to instill in me was the difference when Yahweh speaks to me, when Father speaks to me, and when Mother speaks to me. Okay. Father speaks to me at a more direct and a more emphatic and stern approach. Not always, but that's the way Father speaks to me. And then Mother speaks to me more comforting, more conciliatory, more softer, for lack of a better word, right? She speaks to me in that tone, right? And then ultimately they speak to me together collectively. And you've got to understand, or you will begin to understand, the difference between them. That's a part of your maturity. Okay. That's a part of your maturation process. And we've talked at length about maturation and why it's so important, and the purpose and the impact of maturation upon your walk of faith. And so you've got to begin to allow that kind of paradigm shift to take place in your life. It's not just God in the generic sense. There is Yahweh and there is Mother, right? Some people call her Sophia. Okay. I mean, there is Yahweh and Mother, and there's Elohim, and as a part of that journey, that new territory that you're going into, you've got to allow them to renew your mind to begin to understand those territories. And let me say something. I asked you earlier to do some research, but let me be very clear. The research that you do, that's only a tool. The final, if I could say that, is going to come from your intimacy with Elohim. It has to come from there. All the research is going to do is give you information. Now, you have to allow Elohim to take that information and to turn it into something that is meaningful in your walk of faith. Allow Elohim to give life, to speak life, to quicken that information. Okay. So I want to be very clear. I'm not telling you to go believe what you find on the internet. I'm telling you to go get some information from the internet to open your understanding as to what is out there, and then allow Elohim to quicken whatever it is that they want you to believe. I want to address something else as well. I want to address the idea that in your new territory, Christianity and your upbringing in Christianity will bring about a level of fear, because new territory means for them the opportunity for the devil to trip you up, the opportunity for false doctrine to trip you up, the opportunity for false spirits to trip you up, right? That comes with a part of your upbringing. You got to stay in the confines of the Bible. Otherwise, you're in jeopardy of losing your soul and going to hell. That's what Christianity teaches. And that is a self-serving aspect of Christianity to keep you in the confines of Christianity, right? They tell you that what's beyond the bubble of Christianity is all going to hell and the devil and all of these things. And the reality of it is what's beyond, what's within Christianity is there to keep you in Christianity. Again, when you are going to travel and when you are going to enter into new territory, you've got to be prepared to face that challenge and that fear that is inevitably going to come as you cross over, as you cross that barrier, as you go beyond the barrier of Christianity. And many of you are going to face that fear, and you are going to succumb to that fear and retreat back to familiarity. Unfortunately, many of us are going to do that. You're going to retreat back to Christianity because that's where it's comfortable, that's where it's familiar, that's where I know, that's what I know, and that's where I'm going to stay. Well, that's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate, because if you don't press through that fear, then you are going to be a prisoner, trapped by fear in something that Elohim, God as you know it, is not a part of. You know, there was a time that the scriptures recorded that the word Ichabod, right? The presence of the Lord has departed, or the Spirit of the Lord has departed. That's what Ichabod means. Today, over on the marquee of the church, on the doorposts of the church, the term Ichabod has been written. And I submit to you that remaining there will yield nothing of what you desire. None of the things that you aspire to in your Christian walk will be embraced or achieved or received as a part of your desire to develop a kingdom identity. That's hard for many people to hear. That's hard for many people to embrace. Quite frankly, it was hard for me to embrace. But we're talking about entering into new territory here. Okay? Give me a few more minutes and we're going to wrap it up. If you have any thoughts, any questions, I absolutely encourage you to jot your comments and your thoughts down so that we can dialogue around them before we bring it to a close today. But I want to say again, these new territories are constantly placed in front of us. We're constantly being asked to cross over, to cross into new territory, to cross into new ventures, to engage with new things. Remember, I do a new thing. That new thing is a constant part of who Elohim is. We are constantly being challenged to cross over by Elohim. and to go into new places, into new territories. Okay. And if you are not, and if you do not become comfortable with that, your kingdom journey will struggle. See, and I can't emphasize this more. Christianity was not about the new thing. Christianity was about preserving that which they had received. Okay? Christianity was about keeping the people confined to a word that they could control them with. And as a result, they built an entire religion around that word. I'm going to say this. They built a religion around the cross. They built a religion around salvation. They built a religion around grace. And the entirety of Christianity, you can sum it up at the cross, salvation, and grace. That's not the kingdom. Or should I say, that's not all of the kingdom. As a matter of fact, that is only the elemental parts of the kingdom. The kingdom is far more expansive than salvation, the cross, and grace. The kingdom is bigger than that. The kingdom, and so you're being asked to go beyond grace, beyond the cross, beyond your salvation. You're being asked to go into areas way beyond that. So you're going to be constantly asked to cross over, to cross over, to cross over. Listen, let me say this to you. When you cross over into a new territory. You have a new mind. And if you do it the kingdom way, you develop a new mind, a new paradigm for that new territory, right? So now you have that new mind, and you're operating, and you're flourishing in that new territory, and you come to understand that new territory. And guess what? You're going to be asked to cross over again. So now the new mind, that new mind now has become basically your old mind, or it becomes your status quo mind, right? And so now you're going to be asked to cross over into a new territory. So that mind now has to be renewed, and again and again, and in perpetuity. That's the nature of your kingdom journey. And your new territory is not defined, or should I say, let me put it this way. Your new territory is defined by Elohim. Elohim says, okay, it's time, move on. I want to read something to you real quick. I find this to be extremely insightful in understanding the progressiveness of Elohim with us. Listen to what Apostle Paul said what the scriptures record of Apostle Paul in the Galatians, in the writing of Galatians. Okay. It says this. It says, "Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under governors and tutors until the appointed time of the Father." Now, this is the key part that I want to emphasize. Though he be Lord of all, he is no different than a servant. Verse 2, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. There is a time that Father Elohim appoints toward us, that we make another step. Listen, this, first of all, a tutor and a governor are first. The tutor is the male. The governor or the governess is also the caretaker. Okay, the tutor is the one who instructs in the information, science, and technology, and things of that nature. In what wasn't, well, there was technology of that day, but academic learning was what the tutor handles. The governor teaches us how to be royalty, how to be the heir apparent to the throne. That's what the governor teaches, how to be refined, how to handle social situations and so forth. That's what the governor teaches. The tutor teaches us how to learn academic information, okay? There is a time that the father has determined that the heir must be prepared, must be ready. And as a result of that, the tutor and the governor are instructed to bring the heir to that place of competency that it conforms to the timing that father has allocated and established. Okay. So father has established a time in you that your maturity must come to fruition. And when your maturity in an area comes to fruition, it's time to move into another area. Same thing, it's time to move into a third area and right on down the line. It is never ending because the kingdom never ends. So you are constantly going to be crossing over into new territories. And you have to develop a mindset, a disposition to embrace crossing over. And this is why you hear me say Christianity is completely incompatible with crossing over. There is, and we're getting ready to close here. Get ready to get to a couple of your questions. Thank you all so much for jotting a few questions down or a few comments as well. There is a movie. There have been several movies, one with Jim Carrey and another one with Ryan Reynolds about this individual who was raised in a bubble, and not in a physical bubble, but then in this made up world. There's a real person made up in this raised in this made up world, and his entire world comprised this makeshift studio in Hollywood. Okay. And he began to, in the movie, he began to question some of the things that he began to see and challenge what he had been made to believe for all of his life. And finally and ultimately, the challenge leads him to the edge of that world and eventually breaking through and realizing that there was a whole nother world out there beyond the world that he had been made to believe. I see in many respects, many Christians are like that. You're starting to question and challenge the things you've been made to believe, and it's leading you to the edge of Christianity. And some of us get to the edge of Christianity and we get afraid, back to that again, we get afraid to press through. And others of us, like myself and others that I know, said, wait a minute, I'm going to press through this edge, and only to discover that there's a whole nother world out there called the kingdom of heaven that I want to explore and I want to journey into. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, beloved, when we talk about entering into new territories. It is ultimately going to take you to the edge of Christianity. It's inevitable because Christianity is stagnant. It's fixed. Get ready, or should I say, get saved, get ready, get gone. That's what Christianity teaches. Get saved, get yourself ready, because we're about to get out of here. Jesus is coming back soon. Well, let me bust that little bubble for you. Jesus is not coming back soon. As a matter of fact, Jesus is not coming back. Yeshua isn't even coming back very soon, because we've got maturing that we've got to do. When Yeshua returns, he's not returning to come get us. Yeshua is returning to receive a tribute from us, because we've established the kingdom in earth as it is in heaven. You remember that? Okay. Well, listen, beloved, thank you so very much. And I really appreciate it. It was a little bit heavy today. the presentation, the broadcast was a little bit heavy today, but I do want to read some of your comments before we close. So Eric says this: remember that fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. That's a fact. The more intimate and mature, the more intimacy and maturity with Elohim, the more your confidence will grow. Spot on, Eric. That is spot on in terms of, as we become more intimate with Elohim, we will become more mature. The more mature you become, the more you will be willing to handle things beyond where you are. Let me say this. I want you to think about your own natural maturity, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Let me not say spiritually right now. Physically and emotional maturity, experiential maturity, okay? The more you learned, the more you were able and the more intuitive you became, meaning that I learned this, but this has principles that are applicable to something else. While I didn't directly learn that something else, I was able to apply the principles of what I learned to that something else as I engaged it. And was able to be successful with it. And that's the way maturity works. The more mature you become, the more intuitive you become, and the more you will be able to handle things without actually having to learn that thing. You learn it on the fly, so to speak, because what I learned over here, the principles were applicable over there. And so I was able to engage over there without ever having to stop and quote, learn what over there was all about. That's the same way our maturity in the kingdom works. Whether it is the understanding in this area that's applicable to that area, we can move in and out of those two places with great confidence because of the maturity that I have. So you're absolutely right, Eric. Fear is false evidence appearing real, and the more intimate and mature I become with Elohim, the more my confidence will grow. And that's a fact. Angie says this is the time of continuous increase of kingdom relations unfolding in the earth. Angie, absolutely. This time is really critical. And I want you, Angie, and all who are listening, I want you to begin to entreat Elohim to take you, just move you beyond the confines of the Christianity that you've come to know. And I'm certainly not suggesting, Angie, that you're still battling the issues of Christianity, but I'm just talking in general that we have to begin to get beyond that, and then get into, once you get beyond that, that's just the exit. Okay, that's just the exit. That you haven't gained anything getting beyond Christianity. You've just left Christianity. Now you get into the aspect of learning what the kingdom is all about. And the kingdom is unfolding in the earth. It is absolutely unveiling, unfolding, expanding into different areas and to new areas. So I absolutely entreat all of you to be able to engage your kingdom journey that way. Amen. 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 Well, listen, beloved, thank you all so very much. I really appreciate you tuning in, and also the comments or the questions and comments that were offered. If there are any more, feel free to jot them down real quick before we close. But as we close, I want to take a few minutes to wish everyone, all the fathers out there, a happy Father's Day. It means a lot. And I know a lot of times, men, we joke about being the afterthought of the Father's Day, Mother's Day discussion. And it is true. But they love us. They appreciate us. They just engage with us from a different perspective than they do their mamas. I've taught both of my boys, all three of my boys, as a matter of fact. I've taught all of them that you know, the babies and the mamas, they just share a different relationship than you will ever have with those babies. That's just the way it is. That's just what it is. That's just the way it was, the DNA works out, right? Babies and their mamas are just what it is, right? Accept it. Babies and their daddies are what it is. Accept it. And the sooner you accept that, the better it'll be. But it is good to be recognized. And I want to say to all of you, happy Father's Day. And enjoy your families, enjoy your sons, your daughters, your wives, enjoy your grandchildren. This is a time for us to take a minute to enjoy them and the fruit of our labor and of our loins. And so from me to you, happy Father's Day. Having said that, I want to invite all of you to return again next week as we continue to share truths of the kingdom, as we continue to journey together, and as we continue to explore the kingdom in a way that I hope and I believe that you will find engaging, energetic, and insightful for your kingdom journey. Never boring, insightful. So I do want to ask you to share this with your social media platforms. Share this with your friends. Invite them to come in and to share and to be a part of the broadcast as well. Amen. Well, listen, beloved, thank you again. Join us again next time right here on both YouTube and Facebook as we continue to share with you truths of the kingdom from an apostolic perspective. Until then, I want to ask you to be well, be blessed, and we'll see you again next week.